Imagine waking up to a normal morning, only for the sky to suddenly turn pitch black by noon. No eclipse, no storm, no warning, just darkness. Animals panicked. People dropped to their knees praying. Some thought the world was ending. But this wasn't fiction. This actually happened in the United States on May 19th, 1780. And even today, no one knows exactly why. It's now known as the Dark Day of 1780, and it still sends chills down the spine of historians and scientists alike. It happened across New England, parts of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and even into parts of Canada. At first, the day began like any other. Birds sang, farmers worked the fields, shops opened. But by late morning, a strange gloom started creeping across the sky. People looked up and saw nothing. Just an eerie, smoky haze swallowing the sun. By noon, it was so dark that candles were lit indoors. Chickens went to roost. Frogs started croaking like it was nighttime. People genuinely thought the apocalypse had arrived. In Connecticut, the state legislature actually paused their session. Some lawmakers wanted to go home to be with their families, thinking it might be their final hours. But one senator famously stood up and said, "If this is the end of the world, I prefer to be found doing my duty." And with that, they lit some candles and kept working. Chills, right? So, what actually happened? The crazy part is, there's no single, clear answer. There were no recorded volcanic eruptions, no solar eclipse on record, no massive storm system. Scientists today think the most likely cause was smoke from massive forest fires burning hundreds of miles away in Canada. Here's how that would work. If thick smoke and ash particles rose high into the atmosphere, then combined with fog and heavy cloud cover, it could block out the sun almost entirely. But here's the twist. No one in New England reported smelling smoke, and no one saw any flames. So if there was a massive fire, how did no one notice? Some diaries from the time mention an oily, dark rain falling earlier that week. Others wrote about red-tinted clouds and ash falling like snow. One woman wrote in her journal, "The darkness was such that a sheet of white paper held within a few inches of the eyes was invisible. And this wasn't just a few minutes of gloom. It lasted well into the night, a full 14 hours for some towns. It was so unnerving that ministers began giving impromptu sermons in the street. People confessed sins, cried, and begged for forgiveness. They weren't worried about climate or weather. They thought it was God. Here's where it gets even creepier. In recent years, scientists used tree rings to examine carbon levels from that exact period and found high concentrations of charred material. So yes, there likely was a giant wildfire, but we still don't know where it started or why there were no other records of it. In an era without satellites or news, something massive could happen just out of sight and leave only shadows behind. So what do we take away from this? That the natural world still holds mysteries we haven't solved. That even something as certain as the sunrise can suddenly vanish. And maybe the scariest part? If it happened once, without warning, what's stopping it from happening again? Sometimes it's not the things we see that are most terrifying. It's the darkness we don't expect.